The average analyst on Wall Street thinks about quitting 4 times a week. Most of them will still be there in 20 years. Most people think the hardest part of this career is getting in. The people actually inside it know the truth. The hardest part is leaving. Not because the door is locked, because the door costs more to walk through every single year you stay near it. There are 7 ways out of Wall Street. Most people take none of them. This is what happens at every single exit, and what happens to the ones who never take any. Stage 1. The fantasy. You're 23, first-year investment banking analyst. Base salary, $110,000. Bonus that could double it if the year is good, and the staffing gods are kind. You are 19 months into a 2-year program that everyone around you describes as something to survive rather than something to enjoy. And you have started, recently, to do a specific kind of math at 2 a.m. The math is this: you make good money, you have no time to spend it, you have not seen daylight on a weekday in 3 weeks. You are building a skill set the entire finance industry values, and you are spending the only years your body will ever feel this good sitting in a chair adjusting the formatting on a pitch deck that a managing director will glance at for 4 seconds before asking why the logo is the wrong shade of blue. The fantasy arrives fully formed around 2 a.m. You will do this for 2 years. You will get the exit. Everyone talks about the exit, the move to private equity, to a hedge fund, to the buy side, to the place where the hours are better and the money is real, and the work finally matters. 2 years. You can do anything for 2 years. You tell yourself this the way people tell themselves things they need to be true. You haven't left yet. You've just started believing you will. That belief is the most dangerous part because it makes staying feel temporary. Stage 2. The exit everyone takes. You got it. The private equity associate role at a mid-market fund. You're 25. Your comp jumped to $350,000. You left the bank on a Friday and started at the fund the following Monday, and for the first 2 weeks, you felt something you hadn't felt in 2 years. The specific lightness of believing you had escaped. You had not escaped. You had transferred. The work is more interesting. That part is real. You're evaluating companies instead of formatting pitches about them. You sit in on board meetings. You see how deals actually get made, rather than just preparing the books for them. But the hours did not improve the way the fantasy promised. They improved for the first month, during onboarding, and then deal season arrived, and you were back to the calls at 11 p.m. and the weekends that dissolve into the weeks. The cage got nicer. The cage got more selective. The cage started paying you more. It remained a cage. And here is the part nobody told you at 2 a.m. when you were doing the math. The buy side isn't the exit. It's the promotion within the system. You optimized your way into a better seat on the same train, and the train is going to the same place. And the place is a managing director at 45 wondering where the time went. You can see him from here. He works at your fund. His name is on the door. You took the exit everyone takes. You'll find out in about 3 years that it was never an exit at all. It was the express lane. Stage 3, the pay cut for a life. You're 29. You left the fund. You took a corporate development role at a Fortune 500 company, doing mergers and acquisitions, but in-house. For one company, with a strategy team and a normal building and a parking garage where you arrive in the dark less often than you used to. Your comp dropped from $400,000 to $230,000. You took a 40% pay cut on purpose. The first person you told about the decision asked if everything was okay, in the tone people use when they assume a 40% pay cut means something went wrong. Nothing went wrong. That's what you couldn't fully explain. You did the math one more time, but a different version of it, not dollars per year, but hours per life. And the corporate number, the lower number had been quietly charging you for, you leave the office at 6:30 most days. You saw your nephew's birthday. You have a hobby again, a real one that you do badly and love. The trade is real, and it cuts both ways. You make less. You will always make less now. Stepping off the Wall Street track means the compounding that makes finance people genuinely wealthy stops compounding for you. The colleagues you left behind will pass you financially within 5 years, and keep going. You know this. You decided the daylight was worth it. Some mornings, you are completely certain you were right. Some mornings, usually the ones where an old colleague posts about a deal you would have loved to work on, you are merely mostly certain. This is the first real exit, not the buy side, this one, the one that cost money instead of making it, the one most people are too far inside the math to take. Stage 4, the leap. You're 31. You left a stable, well-paying buy-side role to join a startup as employee number 8. Head of finance, technically, though at a company of 8, the title means you do finance operations, hiring, the investor deck, and occasionally you go buy the office snacks. Because nobody else remembered, your base dropped to $160,000. But you have equity now, 0.8%, on a vesting schedule, in a company that is either worth nothing or worth a number you don't let yourself say out loud. This is the exit that doesn't feel like an escape because it feels like a bet. The Wall Street years gave you the financial cushion to take it, 18 months of runway in savings. The specific freedom that comes from having banked enough to fail once without it being catastrophic. That cushion is the only reason the leap was possible. The cage paid for the key. The work is the most alive you have felt professionally. It is also the most uncertain. Some nights you lie awake doing a new kind of math. Not hours per life, but months of runway against the burn rate against the probability that the next funding round closes. The anxiety is different from the banking anxiety. The banking anxiety was about a managing director's opinion. This anxiety is about whether the thing you bet your career on survives the year. You didn't take an exit. You took a risk. The difference is that this one might pay for every exit after it, or none of them. Stage 5, the number. You're 35. You stopped. Not slowed down. Stop. You spent 11 years on the street, lived on a fraction of what you earned while your colleagues bought the watches and the apartments, and you invested the difference with the same discipline you brought to a deal model. You hit your number in March. The number is $3.2 million. At a 4% withdrawal rate that produces $128,000 a year for the rest of your life without you ever working again. You ran the spreadsheet 40 times. The spreadsheet kept saying the same thing. You were free, so you quit. You walked into your managing director's office and resigned, and he assumed you were leaving for a competitor and offered to match, and you said there was no competitor, and he didn't understand. And you realized in that moment that he genuinely could not conceive of leaving for nothing, for time, for mornings, for a life measured in something other than the next rung. That was the moment you knew you'd made the right call. His incomprehension was the confirmation. The first 3 months of freedom were euphoric. The 4th month was strange. It turns out that 11 years of total professional intensity does not switch off cleanly, and a person whose entire identity was built on the climb has to construct a new one from scratch. And that construction is harder than any deal you ever closed. Freedom is not the absence of the cage. Freedom is the work of building something to do inside the space where the cage used to be. You did what almost nobody does. You hit the number, and you actually left. The hard part wasn't earning the freedom. It was learning what it's for. Stage 6. The clean break. You're 38. You didn't just leave Wall Street. You left the entire world it belongs to. You moved out of the city. You bought land, actual land, with a house on it that needed work you didn't know how to do, and learned to do badly, and then less badly. You teach high school economics now. Your salary is $61,000. You took an 85% pay cut from your peak, and you describe it, when people ask, as the best financial decision you ever made. And you mean it in a way that has nothing to do with finance. The escape was total because the half measures hadn't worked. You'd tried the corporate exit years earlier, and the old hunger followed you there. You realized eventually that the problem wasn't the firm or the hours or the comp. The problem was that you had spent 15 years measuring your life in a currency that could never make you feel finished, and the only way out was to stop using the currency entirely. So you did. You teach 16-year-olds about opportunity cost. You understand it now in a way you never did when you were living it. You think about money less than you have since you were a child. Not because you have so much of it, you don't anymore, but because you finally stepped off the scale that weighed everything against it. This is the exit nobody plans for, because you can't plan for it from inside. You can only arrive at it after the other exits teach you what you were actually trying to leave. Stage 7, the exit you never took. You're 58. You are a senior managing director. You have been on Wall Street for 35 years. Your net worth is somewhere north of $40 million, and you could not tell anyone the exact number because the exact number stopped being the point a long time ago, and you never found anything to replace it as the point. You took none of the exits. Each one came, and you saw it, and you had a reason. At 25, the buy-side jump made the money too good to leave. At 29, the corporate pay cut felt like surrender. At 35, you had the number. You passed it years ago. But stopping felt like admitting the climb had been for something other than the climb, and you weren't ready to admit that, and then you were 40, and then the next bonus cycle, and then you were 58, and the question of leaving had quietly answered itself by never being answered. You are good at this. That was always true, and it was always the trap. The people who are bad at it leave because the system pushes them out. The people who are good at it stay because the system keeps rewarding them, and the reward is always exactly large enough to justify one more year. And one more year is the longest sentence in the language. Your kids are grown. You missed more of it than you'll ever say out loud. Your second marriage is steady in the way of two people who respect each other's schedules. You are, by every external measure the world uses, a complete success. You won the game so thoroughly that you forgot it was supposed to end. Right now, 3 floors down, there is a 23-year-old analyst at 2 a.m. doing the math. Money in, time out. They are telling themselves they'll do this for 2 years and then take the exit. Everyone takes the exit. 2 years. You can do anything for 2 years. You walk past their desk on your way out at 11 p.m. You see the spreadsheet open, the same spreadsheet, the same fluorescent exhaustion, the same private 2 a.m. arithmetic you were running 35 years ago. You think about saying something. You don't know what it would be. You think, take the exit. Any of them. Take it while the math still feels like a choice and not like gravity. You don't say it. You nod at them instead. They nod back. You both go back to work. The door was never locked. That was always the cruelest part. It just costs more to walk through every year you stand next to it. And one day you look up and you're the one. The new analysts walk past, and you realize the exit nobody plans for is the one where you simply never leave.